You're listening to CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living. To learn more about who we are, what we do, and how we do it, call toll-free 1-866-928-3310, and we'll send you out a no-obligation information kit absolutely free. 866-928-3310. The CFRN Emini Futures Cast is now on Stitcher. Listen to us on your iPhone, Android phones, BlackBerry, and WebOS phone. Stitcher is smart radio for your phone. Find it in your app store or at Stitcher.com. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Are you ready, team? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas.
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/CFRN. Over 85,000 titles. Choose from mystery, romance, religion, science, technology, business, New York Times bestsellers, even children's books. You name it, Audible has it. With 85,000 titles to choose from, you're sure to find the perfect audiobook for yourself or to give as a gift, and it's absolutely free. Just point your browser to audibletrial.com/CFRN. That's audibletrial.com/CFRN. And become a part of the audiobook revolution by downloading your free audiobook today. audibletrial.com/CFRN.
Hey, trader, want to get rich quick? Well, good luck with that. If, on the other hand, you actually want to learn how to trade, the place to be is www.cfrn.net. Tune in Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern for our daily devotional, and then spend the next 3 hours learning how it's done from professional traders who actually trade for a living. That's www.cfrn.net. Every trading day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things E-mini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro, and even T-bills. Joining us today from our studios in Boston, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio 8, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Thursday, 25th day of June, 2020. Thanks so much for joining us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we're just glad to have you right here, right now. If you cannot see the screen I have up, go to our homepage at CFRN.net. On the right-hand side of the page, click the big microphone, follow the instructions. You'll be registered in about 30 seconds, and that's going to give you one-click access to the show each and every day. When you join that way, not only do you get a reminder right before the show starts each day so that you can join with the one-click access, joining that way also gives you access to the chat box so that you can ask questions, participate in the discussion. Now, if you're away from the office, away from your desktop, just point any internet-connected browser to cfrn.net/live, and there you'll find a live real-time simulcast of the show as it unfolds. You'll also find us streaming live during the show on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Let's open with a word of prayer. Father, we thank you for your blessings, your mercy, your grace in each and every one of our lives. We all know that good things can happen when people work together, pray together. So I ask all of you to join me in prayer. Father, in times like these, individually we feel so small. But together we know that we have more power if we pray in agreement with one voice, one mind, and according to your will. God, you said that if we don't have it, or if we have not, it's just because we ask not. So together, we come together today in prayer to ask you, God, that you give divine wisdom to our president and all those in authority, everyone who's in a position of influence, whether it be national, state, or even at the local level. God, we pray that you would inspire all people to make right decisions that will restore peace, stability, freedom, and harmony to our beloved America and to our world. And God, we pray that hateful hearts will be changed to do good, and that no other innocent blood will be shed. God, we pray even for our enemies, as you told us to do. We also ask for divine protection for the men and women who serve our country and all those who enforce our laws. Help them to accomplish what is good, and God, please keep them out of harm's way. God, we know that you honor your word, so after we have asked with faith in your word, we, as a peace-loving people, take the responsibility to praise you and thank you every morning, noon, and night for answering our prayer. God, in times like these, it's never more obvious that you and you alone are our refuge and our stronghold. Help each of us to do something to save our nation and our world, just as we are praying together right now. Help us to love one another and be kinder to one another, as you told us to do. We sow these words as seeds in our field of dreams, and we thank you for the harvest of miracles that we request of you. We promise not to doubt your love for us, for we know you are a God of love. In the quiet chambers of our hearts and souls, we express our love for you and praise you for answering this prayer for America and for our world. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Guys, here are the numbers from around the world. These are the cash markets, the indices, as they're called. Currently, the Dow's up 44 points, NASDAQ up 29, S&P 500 up 3, Russell 2000 down 2. In the commodity basket, crude oil at 37 cents, trading 38.38 last. It's a gain of almost 1%. Gold down $5.70, trading 17.6940 last. In the Asian markets at the close, Nikkei was down 274 points. That's about 1.25%. Shanghai was up 9. The Hang Seng was down 125. And in the European markets at the close, FTSE posted a gain of 24 points. The DAX rose 84. The CAC was up 47. That gives us a mixed day in Asia, a green day in the UK, And so far, it's a mixed day here in the US of A, with just the Russell being in the red. We'll go to Michael now and get a recap of everything that happened in the live training room this morning. After that, I'll be back and we'll go through the Concierge Trade Alerts, the Logic 247 alerts, all that and answers to your questions. Oh, and I almost forgot, today's Thursday. So
it's Thursday, yeah.
So Dr. Tom should be joining us at the top of the hour. It's all yours.
And if John jumps in.
Yeah, and John may jump in as well. So we'll see. He didn't make it yesterday, but we got plenty to do and keep us busy during the 30 minutes from when Michael finishes up to when Dr. Tom arrives. So we'll try to get as much of that recap done as we can, and anything we don't get done, then I'll do it after we talk to Dr. Tom.
Okay. Here, let me grab it. Bring it over. Okay. Do the audience view. There you go. Everybody is looking at my charts.
Tim posted a link this morning in the CFRN Breeze channel. 1 million dead people have received stimulus checks. Are you talking to us?
All right.
Were you talking?
Good afternoon, everybody. Today is Thursday, the 25th day of June, 2020. So we are almost halfway through the year already. If you have not taken a free trial with us, go to the homepage here at CFRN.net. Scroll down to where it says free 5-day trial, right there, and click on that. And fill out this little form. Once you fill out this little form, you will be sent a link to get into the next session prior to the next session every single business day until you cancel. Now, I'm sorry. When you take the free trial, you'll be sent a confirmation link. All we ask for is your name, your email, your phone number, and you can tell us your biggest trading challenge so we can tailor one-on-one training just for you. Hit the send button, you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on the confirmation link. Okay. If you don't click that confirmation link, we don't know that you took the free trial. Sorry, I was going through my morning session wrap up. Okay. So results. We had a pretty good day today. Well, first, if you can read the spreadsheet, you can read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Today is the 25th day of June, 2020. We made 5 ticks in crude. We lost 8 ticks in gold, and we made 38 ticks on the ES. That put us at plus 445 on the morning session. Today, it took 22 minutes and 2 trades to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we're up $300 a contract, and we took a total of 8 trades. So on the month now, we're at $6,207. That's over 19 trading days, averaging $326 per contract per 2-hour day. On the year, we're now at $42,622. That's over 116 trading days, averaging $367 per contract per 2-hour day. Okay. Now you see this column right here? This is if you added 1 contract per month, where you would be if you did everything exactly the same as I did. And let me just make sure that this is right. I'm gonna look at the formula. Yeah. Okay. So now let's go through what happened this morning and what I did do, what I didn't do, if I missed it. Now it started out right in here. We were establishing a downtrend. Okay, we had to bounce off the BBC with bearish separation, red on the cycle. So you could have taken a short trade right here. Now this, let me just point a few things out about this right here. This was in the pre-market. We'll start with that. But we had red on the YBR. We had a down close. We had bearish separation. We also had red on the MA1 and red on the cycle and bearish separation. So that's a really high probability trade if you're doing it in the pre-market. But I was not. Let's see right here. Well, actually, let's go back here. Now, we didn't have a good trend for the bounce off the BBC, but if you have the YBR, you don't have to think about the trend so much. Okay, so we had blue on the YBR with an up close, bullish separation, blue on the cycle, blue on the MA1. So right here up to there. Keep in mind, you just want to get your goal for the day and then put the mouse away. All right, you don't want to take 100 trades a day. Over here, we had a shorting opportunity, break even. Here we had a long opportunity, probably break even, and then we stopped out on the next one. We were -8 ticks. Then there was a shorting opportunity there that I missed, a shorting opportunity there that I missed, and a break-even trade right there. And that brings us into the break. During the break, we really didn't have anything good. You know, right here, it could have gone long, but that would have been a break-even. I would not have done anything during the break. Okay, now the euro. I didn't place a trade on the euro today. But it looks like there was a long right here that would have been a break even. A long right here. A short right here. This would have given you some profit. It would have been a short from right here. But if you're doing the YBR, it would have been from right up here, 1 bar earlier. Okay. A short right there. And then it went into the break. And it didn't give anything during the break. So that was that one. Now, let's look at crude. I only took 1 trade on crude today, I think. Yeah, it was right here. This was the first trade of the day. I picked up 5 ticks from this, and this was a YBR trade. Okay, you see the red on the YBR? So the down close of that bar right there. Now, it also gave, see how we had bearish separation down here? So it was suggesting that it was going to go down. Right over here, it was suggesting that it was going to go up, and it did. There was a shorting opportunity in here. And why do I have that highlighted? Oh, okay, that's why. And this right here, we had bounce off the BBC. We had red on the MA1, red on the cycle, and good bearish separation. So that was a nice trade right there if you got it. Over here, another nice trade. And let's see, during the break, there's a break-even trade right here. That was pretty much it on the crude oil for today. Now I have this area highlighted here because it started out and it was trading in a range. You see this mess right here. So I was waiting for the ES to get out of that. Now, I'm going to scroll all the way back to the beginning of the day. Yeah, see, this is another range right here. Still scrolling. Almost there. Okay, here we go. Now, our first trade on the ES. Well, there was a trade setup right here at 940 that I missed. And you can see the market was just really moving. And usually after you get a substantial move down or up, it's going to consolidate for a little bit. But it moved way down, and then it retraced it right here. Our first trade on the ES, we picked up 20 ticks. Our next trade, we had a break even right there. Okay, we missed that one. Would have been a break even, I think. Looking at it, yeah. We missed this one, which would have been profitable. We got that one, which was a break even. Missed that one, which would have been profitable. Missed that one, which would have been a break even. And you see the chop that we had in here. It was just nasty. Here we picked up 8 ticks to put us at plus 28. We missed a trade right here. Now here when we picked up 8 ticks, it was a close down below the trend line. You see the trend line is right there. This would have been a bounce off the BBC. This would have been a break even momentum trade. This would have been profitable. And let's keep scrolling. Here we go. On this one, we picked up 6 ticks right here to get us to plus 34. And 4 ticks right here to get us to plus 38. And during the break, you can see how choppy it was during the break. You know, if you're doing the YBR trades, there would have been one right here. That would have been a break-even trade. Yeah, and that's pretty much it on the morning session. You could have done another one right here. Probably a break-even trade. But if you look at it in the big picture, and this is, I'm sure Dwayne's going to go over this, but if you look at it in the big picture, I know I've been looking for you, Dwayne. I have 2 meetings scheduled so far for this afternoon, but I can add you onto the list if you want. Okay. Now, what we were looking at this morning was this right here. What was going to happen with these bars right here. You see how the MA1 is right on the BBC and the green line is all the way up into the cycle? Yeah, different Dwayne. Yeah, different Dwayne. Let's say, how's 3 o'clock this afternoon? Because I don't want to overlap with Dwayne's meetings this afternoon. All right. So here, the green line pulled all the way back up into the cycle. So it's time for it to go down. Now, price is pulled all the way back up to the prior swing high right here. And I'm sure Dwayne's going to go over all this. My time, Dwayne. Eastern. Oh, they're Dwayne. Dwayne in. And I'm sure Dwayne's going to go over all this, so I don't need to get into it too much. But right now, we are due for a drop. We'll see what happens here, but that's what's most likely to happen. Okay, let me put it on my list. So I have John, Dwayne, and Ray this afternoon. Okay. With that, let me go back here to the spreadsheet. If you can read the spreadsheet, you can read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Today is the 25th day of June 2020. Made 5 ticks in crude, lost 8 ticks in gold, made 38 ticks on the ES. Put us at plus 445 on the morning session. And today it took 22 minutes and 2 trades to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we're up $300 a contract, and we took a total of 8 trades today. So on the month now, we're at $6,207. That's over 19 trading days, averaging $326 per contract per 2-hour trading day. And as you can see, I miss, I probably take, on average, 15 to 20% of the trades that trigger. Not because I don't like them, but it's because it's a training room, and I'm doing my best to do everything. On the year now, we're at $42,622. That's over 116 days, averaging $367 per contract per 2-hour trading day. Now, if you have not taken the free trial, go to the homepage at CFRN.net. And right here where it says free 5-day trial, just click on that. It's going to bring you to eminitrainingschool.com. Now, you can just go directly to eminitrainingschool.com. And you scroll down, all we ask for is your name, your email, your phone number. And you can fill this out if you want to. It'll help us help you in the future. Okay? hit the send button, and you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on that confirmation link. If you don't click the link, we don't know that you took the trial. Okay. There. With that, I can pass it back out to Studio A, fabulous Phoenix. Phoenix, Arizona, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Okay. I can just call you Norton. Alright.
Wow, the Honeymooners, the old TV show with Ralph Cramden and Ed Norton. That may be way before most of you guys' time. Old television show.
Yeah.
In fact, that television show was done in black and white. Oh, I just see he typed in. You can call me Norton like on the Honeymooners. Okay.
Yeah.
Great minds
that's what he
think
said.
alike.
Yep. That's so we don't get, Dwayne and Dwayne mixed up.
Okay.
I can just call him Norton.
So there's some financial news out. We should talk about it for 1 second. Wall Street banks will soon be able to boost investments in venture capital funds and pocket billions of dollars they'd have had to set aside to backstop derivatives trades as U.S. regulators continue their push to roll back post-crisis constraints. The Federal Reserve, Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, and the FDIC approved changes to the Volcker Rule today that lets banks increase their dealings with certain funds by providing more clarity on what's allowed. The OCC and the FDIC also scrapped a requirement that lenders hold margin when trading derivatives with their affiliates. This is huge. You're going to hear, everybody will be talking about it on all the financial shows today, on whatever financial channel you happen to watch. Okay, so recap of the recap.
Today, it took 22 minutes and 2 trades to get to $300 per contract.
That's a good job. Okay, let's get cracking, as they say. This is the S&P 500 daily chart. Now, I pointed this out this morning in the pre-market strategy session. I show you the fibs every day, and we know that this swing low is a spike of the BBC and a 24% fib. But did you know that you can draw fibs the other way? Reverse fibs. Okay? Just as important. Now, you and I have talked on this show every day for the last couple weeks almost about the dynamic of price hitting red and falling, not being able to get through. 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4, 5 day, 6 day. This is actually day number 7. There was an 8th day in there that was a big green candle. But the struggle was all about red and falling, which acts as resistance. Okay. There's another dynamic that I hadn't pointed out to anyone until this morning in the strategy session. From the high to the retracement low, it's also been about the 62% fib. Reverse fib. We spiked the 62 once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. Now also, kind of a big deal, this candle opened below the BBC. We have a long history of candles opening and closing above the BBC. This one actually opened below and closed below. Okay, this one opened below but closed above. This one opened below but closed above. So the question is, this one that opened below, will that Volcker news help spur the markets on, or are the bears laying a deadly trap for unsuspecting buyers? Well, we shall find out the same way we always do, by being patient and watching the chart. Now, everybody knows this was the all-time historic high. We pulled back to support at the BBC, put a new all-time historic high. Then we had a gap lower open We opened and closed below the BBC. That turned this support into future resistance. This was the pandemic sell-off. When price could go no lower, it started looking for resistance. Find support, can't go any lower, go look for resistance. When price approaches the BBC from below, we expect it to be good resistance. So we had a leg up, leg down, leg up, 2 days down, and that's where we found blue and climbing, which acts as support. Just as red and falling acts as resistance, blue and climbing acts as support. That got us above the BBC on the daily chart, where we proceeded to put in a leg and a retracement, a leg, a retracement, a leg, a retracement, and a big leg that took us up to the area that we already knew would potentially be good resistance. That sent us back down to the BBC and the 24% fib. Come on, fib. Looks like I grabbed the wrong thing. So we try that again. Come on. Okay. Apparently somebody should have done a reboot before the session opened. Or before the show started. I don't want that one. Actually, since I got it out, this is the Fibonacci extension tool. We know we're at we hit a 24% fib on this pullback, but let's take a look at this. From the pandemic low to the recovery high to the retracement low. If price were to do a 100% measured move, that would take us all the way up to 39.70, but there's an awful lot of work that has to be done first. We got to get above that 24% Fibonacci extension, which, as you can see here, not only did we run up to the 24% fib extension and red and falling and the 62% reverse fib, so all those things came together right here. So if we can take that out, and if we can get through the next area of resistance, then we'll be at the 38% fib extension. And the 50% fib extension would give us a new all-time historic high in the S&P 500 Emini Futures. Okay? All right. Now, this is where we are so far this week with Logic 247. Logic 247 is our around-the-clock Emini alert service. Alerts could come out at 2 a.m. or 2 p.m. It's whenever opportunity presents itself. It's based on current price action. Our other alerts, the Concierge, which I'll go over in a minute, are based on historic price action. That comes out as a static report at the beginning of the session, and once one of those alerts triggers, most days we'll see it trigger multiple times. But you have to go to your chart and make sure that the current dynamic is suitable for that alert. So we are in week 99. We've already issued 97 alerts total. I think this got to be our busiest week yet. I think our busiest week for the entire week we did 100. So, and it's always predicated upon what's happening in the market. You know, again, these alerts are published in the channel live in real time as opportunity presents itself. And I always gauge it so that you've got a minimum 5-10 minutes to get to your computer before you have to actually put on the trade. Every now and then one will take off, you know, really quickly after I publish it, but they're always published before the fact, not after. 17 never triggered. We're waiting on a disposition from 7. So we've had 73 actionable alerts in the Logic 24/7 channel this week. 6 of those have been stopped out. That's 8% of actionable alerts. Now, that's not a typical number. What we've averaged over the last 99 weeks is 20% of all Logic 247 alerts do get stopped out. This recap is based upon not risking more than $300 per contract per trade. I teach all of our traders a 3-step methodology for establishing the stop loss based on market structure. We don't use with the alerts a fixed number or a percentage or a ratio or the ATR times something. We actually use the structure of the market to determine where the stop loss needs to be, and I teach that to each and every one of our traders. Very simple, 3 steps. You learn it in one mentoring session. Okay, now I'm going to bring up the Concierge Trade Alerts, and you can grab a screenshot of those if you would like. Okay. Got them out last night at 7 p.m. Eastern. The Globex session, or the Thursday session, started at 6 p.m. Eastern last night. If you're a stock trader, then you're accustomed to, Wall Street hours, 9:30 to 4, which is one of the things we like about futures, is it gives us the ability to trade around the clock as opportunity presents itself. We crank up the channel Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern, and it's open right on up until Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern. Joan asks, with the Fed gap down, do you expect the gap to be refilled? Not sure which Fed gap down you're speaking of. Okay, hold on for me just 1 second, please. All right, sorry about that. So I'm not sure which gap down you're speaking about, Joan. Every gap lower open in the S&P 500 E-mini futures has been filled. I'll say that again. Every gap lower open in the history of the S&P 500 E-mini has been filled. Okay. All right. So let's go. Got your screenshot, so let's just get after it. All right, S&P 30-minute. We're still battling the area that I pointed out to you guys this morning in the strategy session and also in the live room. Okay, I drew a trend line across here. We had a high, a lower high, an even lower high. But on this lower high, we had a higher low. That tells us that we're into some serious consolidation. We've been consolidating at this weekly trading zone since yesterday, the 11:30 a.m. candle. These are 30-minute candles, okay? So we spent the whole night bouncing from the weekly trading zone to the BBC, back to the zone, back to the BBC. Took a little dive here down to expected support, 3006-7. Sent us back to the BBC. We spiked it. Back to the weekly zone. Back up. Back down. Back up. This thing will sort itself out eventually. Last night's Concierge Trade Alert was to consider being short at 30.18. That's right. Here. Is that right? Yeah. Okay, so 30.18. Now, when the market is doing this sort of big picture consolidation, okay, I mean, we're talking about 24 hours, right? That's big picture. When this is happening, this can be the market making a turn. I've used the analogy before of an aircraft carrier. If it's headed due north, in order for it to turn around and head due south, it takes a few hours. It's got to slow down, slowly make the turn, You can get back up to speed. Okay. So just kind of picture a big aircraft carrier trying to get turned around. This is not a ski boat. Can't turn on a dime. Okay. Now, what we need to see here is we need to see price close above this, above this, above this, and I want to see price really prove itself. I want it to get above last week's weekly zone at 73/74 before I get serious about changing my daily sentiment, which right now is sideways to lower to sideways to higher. Okay. All right. So from 3018, we dropped to 3005. So that's 13 S&P points at $50 a point. We then got back above the trigger, dropped again. This time we dropped to 3,007.5, so we'll call it 3,008. So that's a 10-point drop. Then we got back above the trigger. And this time we dropped to 3011.5, so we'll call it 3012. So that's a 6-point drop. The long side for the S&P is up here at 3078. Now, as a member, you would do well each evening when the CTAs come out to put 2 lines in the sand. Okay. Everything in between is the market making up its mind. Does that mean we can't trade inside of this? No, we can, right? But the big determining factor is if we get below this and stay below, if we hold below on a pullback, which we didn't, because see, as you know, we triggered multiple times. 1, 2, 3 triggers last night on the 30-minute chart. Okay. Buyers are excited about this Volcker rule, institutions, banks. So I'd be surprised not to see this turn around. Now, while we're on the S&P, let me share something with you. You may not have heard before. There's a seasonal trade, and we're not pattern recognition people, and we're not seasonal traders. Nothing wrong with those. That's just not who we are. But an interesting factoid is if you go back over the history of the S&P, if you entered a trade long 2 days before the 4th of July and exited the day after, that trade would have been profitable 95% of the time. That's a pretty strong statistic. But remember, 5% of the time, it was not profitable. Now, does that mean we'll be doing that? We will do whatever the chart tells us to do. So if the chart supports a big picture trade idea next Thursday, because the 4th of July is on a Saturday, I was so glad to look at the calendar and see it was a Saturday, because we don't lose any trading days that way. I have great respect for the 4th of July. We all should. And we all want to spend time, go to the picnic, spend time with the family, etc. Although we've all been spending a lot of time with the family lately. Huh. Yeah. Maybe you actually want to get away. Okay. Anyway, let's jump to the Dow. All right, on the Dow last night, the alert said, consider being short 25,120. That was down here. $25,120. So every member and every trial member had an opportunity to be short 25.10. The swing low was 25003. So that was 117 points at $5 a point. It's $585 per contract traded. We did it once, we did it twice, we did it 3 times. This one dropped to 25083, so that's about 40 points. This one dropped to 25271, so it's about 50 points at $5 a point. $250 per contract traded. Now we have the same dynamic going on with the Dow as we do with the S&P, and that is we got to get above this support. I want to see the Dow print 25,640 before I get too excited about any kind of a long trade. Okay. All right. Go to Russell. Last night on the Russell, consider being short 14.13. I'm sorry, 13.85. So that would be right here. So sell 1384. 1385, I'm sorry. 1385. Took us down to a last week weekly trading zone at 76. The swing low was actually 74.3. We'll call it 75. So that was a 10-point move at $50 a point. That's $500 per contract traded. We got back above the trigger, and then we dropped to 1379 at 6 points. We then got back above the trigger, dropped again. This time we put in a swing low at 1363.6, so we'll call that 64. That's 21 points at $50 a point. That's $1,000 per contract traded. 1 trigger, 2 trigger, 3 trigger, 4. 4 triggers at the same alert price. That's what I mean about important prices. Important areas are almost always tested. So if you miss this trigger and you miss this trigger, and then you finally get in on this one, okay, that's that. As long as the chart supports it. On a short, we want to see red and falling. We want to be below the BBC. Okay. Over here, we triggered again, and nice drop all the way down to 1372. So that's what, 13 points. The difference in the dynamic was you were coming down on top of blue and climbing. So that's possibly one I would that's one I would have avoided. All right. Here you're reaching up, right? You do have red and falling, but these are not as desirable as these. And you got red and falling at your back. Now we're above the 50-yard line, but we are red and heading down. This does not, I said the other day, I put about 15% of my focus on this down here. 85% of my decision making is made up here. I really should just be honest and say 100% of my decision making is made up here. I do look at this to see if it supports the trade or not. If it does, then I'm potentially more aggressive. If it doesn't, then I'm potentially less aggressive. But the decision making process really happens up here. Okay. All right. Let's just go to the NQ. Last night's number for the NQ was 99.13. Swing low, 98.93. So that's 20 points at $20 a point, $400 per contract traded. Back above the trigger, down we come again. This was on the 30-minute Wall Street Open candle. Swing low was 98.85. So that's, I don't need to work that hard. I got a calculator from the dollar store, best kind. 98.86. 27 points, $20 a point, $540 per contract traded. Let's go to crude. Alert for crude last night. Short 37 1/4. So for 37.25, we made it down to 37.13. So that's basically a 10-point trade, 10 tick. I did it again. Did it again. This time I made it down to 37.08. The long side for crude was 38.80, which we're just getting to right now. In fact, kind of like that. Let's see what we can do with that real quick. Let's consider being long, 38.95. That'll give us a target of 39.05. And potential resistance right at these lows. So I'm going to call that 39.25. Then we had a weekly trading zone. Is that this week? Yep, 39.50/55. Okay, the alert is in the channel. And this is what the alerts look like. If you don't know, there's the alert I just put out. Consider being long crude, 38.95, initial target 39.05, potential resistance at 39.25. Weekly trading zone on a long trade. The weekly zone above is the trade 2 target. On a short alert, the weekly trading zone below is the trade 2 target. Now as we scroll up, we get into thumbs ups mean price got to the target. A red X means we got stopped out. And when you see little Z's, that means it never triggered. Now today's the 25th. Everything you've seen was from the 25th. We're still on the 24th. Here we go. This takes us back to the 23rd, Tuesday. See, there's a no trigger. These come out around the clock as opportunity presents itself. Over and over, day after day, week after week, rinse and repeat. Okay, I think we're back up to Monday now, the 22nd. And as I roll into Sunday, the 21st, I want you to take a look at this. Busy Sunday night, really set the tone for the week. Okay, as a stop out, as a no trigger. Just look at how many alerts there were. The last alert Sunday night was number 4158. And the first alert was number 4138 Sunday night. So we did 20 individual alerts Sunday night. That's a little unusual, right? But again, we don't dictate when opportunity presents itself. The market does that. Our job is like the guy in the theater of days gone by. You show up late to the movie. There's a gentleman in a little uniform and a funny looking hat. He's got a flashlight. He shines his light to show you how to get into that theater and find a comfortable seat without tripping over anyone else's feet. We're not the market. We're not the movie up on the big screen. We're just the guy with the flashlight, shining it so that you can see where you might walk without tripping and falling, so that you can get to your comfortable seat and enjoy the movie. Last week, which was week 98, we had a total of 82 alerts. 19 never triggered. That left us with 63 actionable alerts. 3 were stopped out. So 5% over the entire week. That's very, very unusual. Okay. Again, over these 98, 99 weeks, we've averaged 20% of all Logic 247 alerts do get stopped out based on not risking more than $300 per contract per trade. And that brings us to top of the hour, Dr. Tom time. Dr. Tom, are you here yet? Okay, I assume you'll let me know when you arrive. We have not talked about the WWDC. And if you wonder what that is, it's the Worldwide Developers Conference. And that's where all the Apple fanboys and all the Apple developers, app creators go. And it's a conference. And they learn what Apple is doing new. And along with that, they rolled out iOS 14 with a lot of new features. And iOS is the operating system, just like you run Windows on your desktop PC, if you're a PC person. I think the newest Mac operating system is called, maybe it's Big Sur. I'm not sure because I'm not a Mac guy, I'm a PC guy. So they've key features and enhancements of the iOS 14, redesigned widgets. They got widgets for everything in the new iOS 14. Weather, clock, calendar, news, notes, maps, fitness, photos, reminders, stocks, music, podcasts, tips, batteries, screen time. Every Sunday morning I get a report that tells me how much time I spent on my iPhone the previous week and how that compares to the week before. Siri suggestions, shortcuts, and apps suggestions. Widgets now come in different sizes, small, medium, and large, so that you can pick the information density that's right for you. You can stack your widgets, up to 10 widgets, to make the most of the space on your home screen. Drag one widget on top of another and then just swipe through them. The app library is on the home screen. When you receive a call, it appears now as a banner instead of taking over the entire screen. So this way you don't lose track of what you're doing. Swipe on the banner to dismiss the call, or swipe down to access extended phone features, and then tap it to answer the call. They've now enabled an API for third-party voice over internet protocol, VoIP, so apps like Skype can support incoming calls. When you get a FaceTime call, it appears as a banner, just like a phone call. It now offers picture-in-picture. You can continue watching a video or taking a FaceTime call while you use another app. You can move the picture-in-picture window to any corner of the phone. Searching the web is now easier than ever. Start typing and see relevant websites and web search suggestions displayed at the top, making it easy to quickly launch Safari for a full web search. The emoji section, actually with Apple they're called memojis. You can customize your memoji with 7 new hairstyles, including a man bun, a top knot, and a simple side part. Show off your hobby or profession with 16 new headwear styles. This is when you customize your emojis. Lots of changes to the maps, Oh, if you're running maps, it'll let you know when you're approaching a speed camera, speed trap. Translate. Advanced on-the-device intelligence lets you translate your voice from one language to another. The app detects your language and provides the translated text and audio in the target language. Wow. Conversations are easy by design with Translate. Turn the phone to landscape, that means sideways, to split the screen and show text from both sides of the conversation. Just tap the microphone button to say something. And automatic language detection transcribes the original and translated text on the correct sides of the screen, followed by the translated audio. Conversation mode works for downloaded languages even when you don't have an internet connection. This is huge, guys. Let's say you are sourcing some kind of product from China, and so you need to call and talk to some guy in Beijing or Wuhan, and he only speaks Mandarin. You only speak English and a little broken Spanish. You guys can talk to each other without having a third person translating. The phone, I mean, that alone is worth the cost of the phone. Think about that. It's like magic. That's like something out of Dick Tracy's wristwatch. Remember? I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember Dick Tracy. Hey, Dr. Tom, where are you, sir? You're not one to be late. Let me look in the audience and see if I can spot him. There he is. Hey, Dr. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I was trying to talk, but I was muted out.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're glad to have you
How
with
you
us.
doing today?
I'm good.
Well, thank you.
Are you going to use the screen today?
I don't need to use the screen
Okay.
because I just want to ask 3 simple questions,
Okay.
if that's okay.
It's okay
And
with
then
me.
maybe we can discuss them a little bit. But these are 3 questions that all have the same answer. All right?
Well, if you already know the answer, why are you asking the question? Oh, that's right. They say don't ever ask a question you don't already know the answer to. Okay.
That's right. So the 3 questions are, why are we having riots in the United States? Why are the cities burning? Why is there anarchy in the streets?
George Soros.
Yeah. Now, some people would say George Floyd, but frankly,
You got the wrong George
No.
there. You got the wrong George.
yeah, frankly, there have been other incidents like this.
I don't believe
Terrible
George
incident.
Floyd would have ever wanted any of this to happen. And
I don't
know
believe
the
he
guy.
would either.
I just don't think he would, because there's very few people as evil as George Soros.
Yeah, but George Floyd's family specifically said he would not have wanted this.
That's right.
And they pleaded with the people not to do what they're doing,
That's right.
but they're doing it anyway.
Mhm.
So the question is why? Why are these riots going on when other situations like this have happened in the past and there wasn't a massive nationwide burning and looting and arsonist and whatever? Second question, why is there such a huge panic? Bill Maher, who thinks he himself as a comic, I don't think he's very funny myself. He thinks saying a lot of filthy words are funny.
Wasn't it you that actually published one of his pieces that actually was quite good a while back?
Yes, I actually
And
did.
I was I shared that with people. It was so good.
Yeah, he sometimes makes sense, and it wasn't because he's a conservative. He was warning the Democrats that if they continued doing what they were doing, which is creating panic and causing people to be afraid constantly, that Biden would not get elected. So they're actually working against themselves. So he recognized that they were the ones that were pushing the panic, and he called it panic porn. So why do we have panic porn today? And then the third question is, why is there economic devastation happening in our country that most anybody with a lick of sense understands will take a minimum of 2 years just to get us back to even, just to get us back to where the economy was prior to January? Why?
Well, I'm going to stick with
The
George
answer-
Soros as my answer. Anybody else got an answer they want to offer?
Yeah, before I give my answer, let's hear what anybody else has to say.
Anybody want to jump in there? You see this picture up
Remember,
on the screen?
there's one answer for all three.
Are you in front of a computer?
Am I?
Mm-hmm.
I live in front of a computer.
I
my
was
friend.
asking if you could see my screen. I have a...
Oh, I can't see the. Oh, I see what you said. I can't see the comments.
No, not the
Oh,
comments. I just
people.
meant what the image.
Yes.
That's Mr.
Well,
Soros.
he's definitely financing all this stuff.
Criminal, manipulator, evil, or even Lucifer. You are talking about the one and only Lucifer in the flesh, evil George Soros.
Wow.
He donated $33 million to fund rioting protest groups. And he's done a lot more. So, but, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any other suggestions or thoughts out there?
Let's see. I got, because they know they can get more, kindness is weakness. Democrats, all the swamp creatures want is power at any cost. So anyway, those were the responses that were put in the chat box.
Okay. Here's my response. It's simply because this is an election year.
Okay.
And they really believe that any of these things, any one of them, could keep Trump from being reelected. And they think if they've got all three of them going, that there's no chance that Trump would get reelected. Obviously, I think they're wrong. But stranger things have happened. People tend to vote their pocketbooks, for instance. So an incumbent president with a good economy almost always gets reelected.
I saw a Democratic commercial last night that called Trump a mass murderer. That all of these COVID-19 deaths are his fault.
Yeah, and immediately after the first case was announced in the United States, there was a hashtag circulating, Trump virus. I mean, how is he responsible?
And this is the
for
guy
this
that it was
virus?
called a xenophobe because he closed the doors to China. They called him a xenophobe, but yet they say he didn't act fast enough, so it's all his fault.
Yeah. Well, they also called him a racist,
Oh,
which shows how stupid they are because the Chinese are not a race.
Right.
The Chinese, the Japanese, and the Koreans all come from the same genetic stock.
Asian.
So you could say they are a race of Asian people. But the Chinese are certainly not a race, they're a country. But let's just start with the riots, okay? We know why they're doing the riots, but how is this possible? Well, first of all, almost every one of the riots is taking place in a city that's been controlled by Democrats for generations. So they have ghettos. They push the poor people back into areas that where they think they can control them. And they've done nothing to do, like Trump is trying to set up economic zones where the businesses aren't taxed and so on in poor neighborhoods to help minority people get ahead in life. Economic opportunity zones, he calls them. These Democrats have never done that. And they basically come up with a few crumbs every election year. And I've heard a lot of black people say the same thing. You know, just before the election, they come out and say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Sometimes they do some of it. Most times they don't even keep their promises. And then they forget about it for 4 years until the next election.
Conveniently, right.
Right. Same thing with Democrat states. The Democrat states like Seattle, where they refuse to put down this anarchy. I mean, this is anarchy is a mild word. It's actually treason because they're taking not only public property, which is against city state and federal laws, but they're also stealing people's businesses and homes from them. There's 500 people that live inside this autonomous zone, as they call it. They say you're leaving the United States of America.
Did you know what's going to happen next Saturday? There's a group on July 4th. There is a group of bikers, patriotic bikers, and I'm talking, Harley Davidson bikers, not 10 speeds, not the ones that go by, but the ones that go by. Yeah, those guys.
Right.
They're going in to take back the autonomous zone. They promise no violence. They're simply going to they're going to take out the trash. They're going to clean the place up, and they're going to make it real nice for the folks who live there. And anyone who promises to not use violence is welcome to come and join them.
This should be very interesting.
They've got a parking lot reserved that will hold, it's either 1,000 or 10,000 motorcycles. Let's just say it's 1,000. They've already got a parking lot reserved so that all the bikers that come from all over the country to clean up this mess, got a place to park.
Well, late breaking news. They may be too late.
Oh.
Because, first of all, I imagine that they've heard about this because the Chaz organization has announced, okay, we've accomplished our purpose.
I didn't hear that. Did that come out today? Did that come today, Dr. Tom?
It was a tweet today. And also yesterday, the mayor finally said that they had to disband and asked the people to start moving out.
I'm so glad he came out of the coma.
I'm sorry?
I'm so glad the mayor came out of this coma that he was in.
No, she's a crazy woman. She's an aging hippie, and when a NBC reporter asked her how long she was going to allow this to go on, she just kind of smirked and said, "Well, maybe it'll be a summer of love," like back when the hippies were dropping all kinds of drugs and having group sex, and if a woman didn't have sex with a stranger, she was considered to be inhospitable, things like that. That's the hippie generation. And what's really scary about that, frankly, is that those old hippies today are the people that are the deans and professors in colleges. They're the principals and senior teachers, what they call master teachers in our public schools. And so they're spreading their free love and free condoms message to teeny boppers and young teenagers. But be that as it may, she finally realized that, by the way, the businesses in the Chaz zone have sued her now, and the residents, because they don't feel safe in their own neighborhood. They've been extorted by these peaceful protesters who are carrying AK-47s and not allowing anyone to enter. So their businesses are being destroyed, but they're afraid to leave because if they do, they know that they will be burned. So they're basically holding 500 people hostage there. So why are the Democrats allowing this? Normally, even the most liberal people wouldn't allow a takeover of a whole portion of a major city. Remember in California, when some illegal immigrants went to a post office and took down the American flag and raised the Mexican flag. It was a very liberal city, but they realized we can't allow this to go on. This is anarchy.
Right.
This is federal property, and they went in and took down the Mexican flag and arrested anyone who wouldn't leave. So why are they allowing it now and even encouraging it? Some of the mayors have been marching with these people. It's because it's an election year. Okay, the fear and panic. We talked about this before, but more and more information is coming out that, number one, you can't get the virus from surfaces. The CDC has said it, but they said it very quietly. They put it out at the very bottom end of a report that they released on a Friday night and hoped nobody would ever see it. But the fact is that they have admitted that the coronavirus cannot live the China virus, let's be accurate, cannot live on surfaces. The only viruses they found were dead viruses, and particularly outdoors.
Mm-hmm. I heard yesterday that 36 minutes, I think it was, of direct sunlight will kill the virus. I don't know if it's true or not.
Well, so much of what they're saying and doing is based on guesses. But to me, the real treasonous activity took place with this Anthony Fauci and so on, who took all his information
he turned out to be
from
a
the
real piece of
Chinese.
art. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to track this down, so I'm not saying this happened, but there's a lot of information out there about him being connected to the Wuhan biowarfare laboratory that created the virus, and his closest associate is now left him because he's such an unethical person, and she's blowing the whistle on him. To me,
I
too
saw
little
the video
too late.
with that lady. You're talking about that lady doctor?
Yeah, Judy McKinovich or something.
We talked about her. Yeah, everybody should watch that. I mean, that's pretty. It's important. I think everybody. Would you say her name again so everybody can maybe jot it down?
I think it's Judy Mikhailovich or McKinovich, but if you just look for Fauci associate Dr. Judy M, you'll find it.
Okay.
That's how I found it.
Okay.
I'm not saying that what
Very
she's saying is
important.
true.
Well, but she seems believable. I mean, that does, again, well, you're right. That doesn't mean it's true just because she seems nice and believable. But it certainly is going to give you something to think about.
Well, the fact that she's not the only one of his former associates or people that worked with him that are saying things like this.
Well, look at Bolton. I mean, Bolton used to work with Trump, but now look at what this piece of art has done.
Yeah. If he believed so strongly that everything Trump was doing was wrong, why didn't he say something then?
Why did
he go out and push? Yeah, well, I take the job, number one. And then why did he go out and not only carry out, but push and advocate for Trump's positions? He just wanted to make $1 million off a book.
Yep.
But I didn't get that sense from this former associate of Fauci's.
Me either.
So I believe that he will come out of this thing a multi-millionaire.
Oh, yeah.
From a bureaucratic job to being
I'm sure he got more than that in just the advance to write the book. He just went to a publisher and said, "Hey, I'm about to make up a bunch of crap about Trump. Would you like to publish it?" They wrote him a fat check just on the promise of a book. I bet you.
Yeah, and that's what Fauci will do. There will be, a book, inside the coronavirus by Dr. Anthony Fauci, the people's doctor, America's doctor.
I'm going to buy a copy just so I can burn it.
Talk about book burning is just kind of a side issue, but this is kind of funny. Have you ever heard of a book called Earth and the Balance?
Earth in the Balance. I can't say that I have. Well, it sounds like something I would have heard of because it's got common words in the title, but no. Let's just say no.
Well, it was a book written some years ago by Al Gore, in which he says that we should all worship the earth god Gaia. He called for the abolition of the internal combustion engine. Just all kinds of extremely radical.
I knew that he, was, down on fossil fuels, but this worshiping the, what god?
Earth goddess Gaia.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't hear that part. I knew he invented the internet.
Yeah, but at the same time as he was saying all these things.
Okay, go ahead.
At the same time as he was saying all these about how bad fossil fuels are, he's flying around in a huge private jet. His farm in Tennessee is dumping used oil into the rivers and streams. He's a total hypocrite.
Right.
But anyway, when he was running for office, he realized that this book would tank him. So he sent hundreds of people all over the country trying to buy up every copy, checking books out of the library if they were in a library and never returning them, and so on. And he burned all of them. And I had to know what was in it, so it took me weeks. But I finally found somebody who would sell me one. This is a $5 hardback book when he published it. I had to pay $300 to get the book because my job is to report facts.
Sure.
And so once I did that, I could see not just what people said he said, but what he actually said.
Right.
And if the American people had known about it, even the most liberal Democrats wouldn't have voted for it. But anyway, back to the subject.
This is new information. I did not know this backstory here with Al Gore.
Hang around me long enough, you're going to find out all kinds of weird.
Pretty soon I'll know as much as my kids.
I'm a master of political trivia.
Okay.
Anyway, the panic. We have had far, far worse pandemics. Now, I call this a scamdemic, but it really is a
pandemic.
Yeah, that too. But to be fair, it is a pandemic. A pandemic is a disease that spreads outside one country's borders and spreads around the world. And it is more easily transmissible than the common flu, but it's also not as deadly as many of them. Not nearly as deadly as the Spanish flu, and even some recent years, more people died of influenza A and influenza B than have died or are likely to die from this China virus.
Was the Spanish flu worse than the Black Plague?
No.
Okay.
No, the Black Plague killed between 1/3 and 1/2 of all human beings on Earth.
Wow.
That's
because they didn't have proper sanitation, right?
Mainly, yeah. Okay. And rats carried it and so on. The Spanish flu killed millions and millions of Americans. And yet we never shut down a church. We never shut down a single business. We never ordered people to wear certain clothing or whatever. If people wanted to, they wore masks because they thought that it would help them. The fact is that good doctors, good scientists today will tell you that the masks do nothing for safety. Our county just passed yesterday an ordinance saying that everyone has to wear a mask in public. I have not, and I will not. They passed
that rule here in Phoenix. I think it's all of Maricopa County. You got to wear a mask. Like if you get out of your car at Walmart, you got to put the mask on immediately. Wear it while you're inside, and only once you're back inside of your car are you supposed to take it off.
Well, I will not be doing that, and if they want to arrest me, they can. I'm perfectly fine with that. But
I do it because I try to set an example for my kids. We follow the law, and so since that's the current law, I just trying to be that.
But the thing is, it's not a law. An executive order is not a law.
Well, in Phoenix, it is. The city council had a vote, and it's like the law in Phoenix now.
Well, it's an ordinance. It's an ordinance.
Okay, ordinance.
But like, for instance, here in Florida, there is a law that's been on the books for 40 years that it is a criminal act to wear a mask in public. And I've advocated for that for a long time.
Well, yeah, and in Arizona, it's illegal for a donkey to sleep in a bathtub. But, they haven't.
No, but this is a real law, and it had a real purpose. The reason Antifa has been able to get away with the things that it has is because they're always masked when they do these violent acts.
I saw a picture of them yesterday, and they're full-on riot gear. I never saw that before.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're color-coordinated and everything. They look very sporty.
Very sporty. But the point is that when this all shakes out, we're going to find out that it was no more dangerous than the common flu, except for older people. 90% or more of the deaths are occurring in people over 85. And hardly any children or anybody under the age of 30, it doesn't even get up to 1% of people have died of this. And I said that from the very beginning. Within the first month, although hundreds of thousands of people died around the world, not one child under the age of 10 had even been infected, much less died. And only one, you could call him a child, between the ages of 10 and 20. So that indicated to me that unlike the regular flu, that this was not going to be dangerous to young children, whereas the influenza A and B are very dangerous to infants and children and to elderly. This seemed to be attracted by elderly people. Now, ultimately, there are going to be some younger people, but they get almost jubilant when somebody 40 or 50 years old dies of it, because then they can say, oh, see, younger people are getting it. The fact is that people over 90 are the largest group of people who have died from this, and they account for more deaths than all the people under age 65. So what does that tell you? Closing down the schools, forcing the kids to stay confined in a house with a grandparent who maybe has the virus, was much, much more dangerous. They would have been much safer to allow the kids to be in school because they're not transmitters. Would some kids get it? Yes. Would some kids die? Yes. But what they did didn't make any difference. There's still a very small, tiny number of children that have gotten it, even though they're locked up inside their homes. They'd be much better out in the sunlight, which, as you say, does kill the virus. Also, it builds up your immune system. You get vitamin D through your skin, exercise, fresh air, all of those things help make your immune system stronger. And so therefore, you're less likely to get this flu. Now, one other thing that people should know, there is no coronavirus. There are dozens of coronaviruses.
Well, it says on the back of a can of Lysol that it kills coronavirus, but it doesn't say COVID-19. It just says coronavirus. As
if, right? Almost all the stuff. By the way, one thing that really gets my dander up, China gives us this virus, whether it's deliberate or accidental, I don't know. But it definitely was a gift from China. And now they're shipping regular masks that only stop bacteria. They can't possibly stop viruses, because viruses are a tenth or less smaller than bacteria. So the regular mask will stop bacteria, dust, that kind of thing, but they will not stop viruses. But they're labeling them anti-COVID masks, and they're selling billions of dollars worth in the United States, so they're profiting off of their own weapon. And again, whether they send it to us on purpose, whether it's terrorism or whether it was an accidental release, it was definitely developed to be a terror weapon because it was developed in their level 4 biowarfare laboratory. So our people come up with all these crazy models, our government, saying that 10% of Americans are going to get the virus and 10% of them are going to die. And at first, you remember, if somebody's got the coronavirus, we started planning their funeral. I mean, it was a death sentence, just like people used to think when somebody got cancer, okay, you're going to die. But now, the vast majority that get it either have no effects whatsoever or effects not worse than the regular flu. So this virus is just one of several dozen coronaviruses. There's 4 coronaviruses that manifest themselves as a common flu. Those are actually coronavirus, just different strains. And so you get the sniffles and a sore throat and runny nose, and then you get better. Influenza A and influenza B are coronaviruses. The SARS virus, the MERS virus, the swine flu, the bird flu, all coronaviruses. So why did this one suddenly require shutting down the entire economy of the United States? Why did it require stopping people from going to church? Why did it require forcing people to go against their religious and moral beliefs? It's because it's an election year, pure and simple. Okay, what about the economic devastation? Our Treasury Secretary said that there's never been a time in history when a government has shut its economy down. It's never happened before. And I don't believe that Mr. Trump wanted to do it, but they shamed him into it because it's an election year. And they're saying, if you don't do this, then America's going to die. We're going to have dead bodies in the streets and all this lying garbage based on data from China, which doesn't even know how to tell the truth if they wanted to. They've forgotten to tell the truth. They're communist liars. And all the data we had to go on came from China via the World Health Organization, which is in China's back pocket. To illustrate this, look at the country of Taiwan. Taiwan started getting some of the first cases outside of China. And they did scientific studies on them, not lying studies like the Chinese, where for months they were telling people that it was transmitted from wild animals and it was not transmissible between humans. Well, the Taiwanese put the lie to that. They did extensive scientific testing and they reported it to the World Health Organization, which, guess what they did with it? They totally ignored it. Why? Because China says that they own Taiwan. Taiwan says, we're not part of you, we want nothing to do with you. But they claim Taiwan as part of their country. And so therefore the World Health Organization was afraid to listen to anything that Taiwan had to say or to publish anything because apparently China's either paying people off there or whatever, I don't know. But they've been parroting the China lies. So for 2 months, China was well aware that they had something that had the potential to become a pandemic, and they protected their own people. They did wall off Wuhan city and the province, but they didn't warn the rest of the world, and they allowed people to travel from China to all over the world. That's how it spread. There were more travelers from China to the United States in December 2019 than in any month in the last 10 years, 4 or 5 times as many. Probably deliberate. They probably told people to travel to the United States in hopes that it would be transmitted here. Again, that's speculation. But there's no speculation about the fact that the Democrat governors who are keeping states shut down are using the panic and the fear in order to try and get people on their side. Let's look at Governor Whitmer in Michigan. Executive orders are not laws. They're just what they sound like. They're orders from an executive, and they can always be overridden by Congress. Did you know that by the state Congress, but did you know that the U.S. Congress can override any executive order President Trump puts out? That's the Constitution. The chief executive of a state or a country is not a dictator. His word is not law. But Gretchen Whitmer initially acted within her authority in an emergency situation, and she did what she says she thinks was best, but what was really just best for her the chances of being reelected, and she's trying to become Joe Biden's vice presidential running mate.
Right.
But then the legislature of Michigan said, okay, we're now withholding this authority from you. We've got a handle on things. We understand what's going on. And we're going to do what our state constitution and what the federal constitution and what the Bible says is the wise thing. The Bible says through safety and a multitude of counselors. One person that has an echo chamber around her of people that are just telling her what she wants to hear should not be making all the decisions for the entire state. In an emergency situation.
I'm sorry, finish your thought. I want to pause and just interject something here, but go ahead and finish your thought.
Okay, but just to finish that up, the legislature said we're taking that authority back and we will pass laws, which is the way things should be done. Laws, not executive orders. And she just totally ignored the legislature and kept issuing executive orders. I think they should impeach her, but that's another story.
When the Bible talks about seeking wise counsel. Okay. Let's say you need help resolving some dilemma in your life, some issue, whatever it is, doesn't matter. If you have to ask 10 people to find one person that agrees with you, that is not confirmation that you were not seeking wise counsel, and then you remember 9 people did not agree with you, but finally the 10th guy goes, yeah, you're right. That's not validation. That's not confirmation. That's stupid. So please don't do that. Back to you.
That's a good point. And when people say, well, I do research on this on the internet, no, what you did was do a Google search, and when you found titles that seemed to agree with your position, you opened those up and you read them and you took notes from them.
You can always find what you're looking for if you search for it properly. There's some knucklehead on this planet that does agree with you, absolutely, and he's probably published it on the internet.
Exactly. Well, I have the oldest conservative Christian website on the internet, conservativetruth.org, and for 20 years now, we've published every single week, and with the exception of Christmas week, so we publish 52 issues a year, and I always read what the other side says, even though I disagree with it.
Absolutely. My wife, she used to come into the room and go, and President Obama would be making a speech. She'd go, "Why are you listening to that guy?" I said, "Because I need to know what the other team's up to." I mean, the fact that I get to sit in on their strategy session, I think that's very valuable. She would just shrug her shoulders and roll her eyes and leave the room because she refused to listen to it. But I like you, I think it's very important to know what the other guys are up to.
Exactly. I watch all the debates, Democrat and Republican. I watch all the State of the Union. Even when Obama was president, I watched it. I had to take some anti-nausea medication an hour or so ahead of time so I wouldn't throw up. But, I watched the Democrat and the Republican conventions. I have to know both sides of the story. And in some cases, the other side will convince me that what my preconceived notion was wrong. Because, Democrats can't always be wrong and Republicans can't always be right. But in general, my position is that most Democrats are actually sensible, fairly well-informed, patriotic people, but their leaders are evil people who deliberately mislead them, lie to them, and just put out sound bites and slogans and chants and that have no substance behind them. But the people don't know any different. I was at my dentist today and I asked the lady who was cleaning my teeth, I said, and I've asked dozens of people this, but her response was almost uniform for everybody I talk with, just regular people. And she was a Republican and a Christian too. But I asked her, I said, what do you think Black Lives Matter stands for? And she said, well, for racial justice. I said, no, it doesn't. He looked at me like, are you crazy? Because that's what everybody says. So therefore, if you say something different, you're crazy, right?
And
called normalcy bias.
And racist.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm automatically racist if I say that they're not.
Half the people in this country are, I don't know what percentage, but I grew up in the deep South. I was born in 59. Okay, so I lived through the 60s. My grandfather was a sheriff in a small town in the deep South during all the race riots and all that stuff. And so my grandparents, my parents, I know racism. I lived with it. I grew up with it. Okay? And I am not my grandfather. I'm not my father. And I saw that my grandfather, even though he would say he's not racist, I saw how he behaved and how he lived his life. I saw in my father a man who said, I'm not racist. And he was nothing like my grandfather, but there was still a little touch, a little tinge, Now, in my own self, I believe that I'm colorblind, that I see all men for who they are as a man or as a woman, I think I've achieved color blindness, but I know that I'm probably at some level deceiving myself because it's in my genes and my roots, it'll probably take another couple generations. Like my son's children, they might actually be colorblind, because it takes that long to work through something like this. It's a big issue, and I don't doubt it, don't deny it. But America as a whole is not a racist country. We just aren't.
Not at all. I saw an interview with Morgan Freeman, a really famous
Yes.
actor.
Yes.
Did you see that interview?
Yeah, tell me that one line. How does he said something like just what
Well,
I just said?
it was a black man interviewing him on one of the super liberal channels like
it was
the
BET.
CNN.
There was Black Entertainment Television. Is where that interview
Oh,
I
where
think
that took place,
originated.
okay.
I think it was on Bet.
Yeah. So anyway, the guy asked him, "Do you believe there's systemic racism in the United States?" And he says, "No." And he goes, "What?" I mean, everybody knows. He said, "What proof do you have that there's not?" He says, "Look at you and me. You're an anchor on a national television show. I am a very successful actor. We had a black president. Does that sound like systemic racism to you?" The owner of Black Entertainment Television, a billionaire who has made his fortune by catering to black people, he said, "This stuff that's going on is ridiculous. It has nothing to do with fairness or racial equality or anything else. It's all about," I can't remember the word he used, but he didn't say anarchy, but that's basically what it is. So Black Lives Matter, okay? It was founded by two lesbians who describe themselves as Marxist trainers. So they're not only trained in Marxism, but they're trained in how to indoctrinate other people into Marxism. And some people, when I see Marxism, they say, "What's that?" So for those that don't know, Marxism is the communist philosophy, okay, espoused by Karl Marx. So they are actively engaged in trying to overthrow the government of the United States. They're not engaged in activism to help black people. And I can prove that because they get billions of dollars in donations from Soros and from white entertainment personalities who feel guilty because they're successful and so on. And you know what they do with their money? They're giving $500,000 grants to anybody who has a following, anybody who's a charismatic person in any city, to establish a Black Lives Matters chapter. Okay, they're very organized. They've never given a penny to economic opportunity zones, to help poor people. That's not their purpose. If you look at their agenda, just look at their website. They advocate for abortion. They advocate for
Whose website?
LGBT.
Whose website?
Black Lives Matter. They advocate for LGBTQ, whatever the letters are now,
Okay.
for the various different perversions of sexuality. And it's because it was established by lesbians. And they don't really
You know what?
care.
Let me just say that I believe that all lives matter, even the lives of the two lesbians that started this organization, if that's be the case. I don't personally know the history, but if you tell me that you know that, then I believe that. But I think their life matters too. I think all lives matter. How did we ever get sidetracked from that? But anyway, go ahead.
Well, of course their lives matter. Anybody who tries to murder them, I would say, send them to jail. But Black Lives Matter not only advocates for the murder of police officers, they've been able to track most of the murders where cops are just sitting around in their squad car taking a break, drinking a cup of coffee, not even in a situation of any kind, and some black guy comes up and shoots him in the head and murders him. And they've been able to trace most of those back to either Antifa or Black Lives Matter, both of which are terrorist organizations, as far as I'm concerned. When you carry around signs saying "kill the cops," rape police officers' wives, things like that, I mean, this is not a peaceful organization. This is a a very violent organization. And there are some great organizations out there. The NAACP, for instance, they have moved very, very far to the left of what the founders were. Can't remember their names, but they're still trying to help black people out. Trump has done far more than Obama, and I've heard many black people say the same thing to help black people. Mm-hmm. He reduced unemployment among blacks to the lowest it's been in 6 decades. That's right. He got permanent funding. Remember what I said earlier about black people complaining that the Democrats are all sugar and honey.
Yeah, permanent funding for the historically black universities.
Yeah, well, the Democrats would do the same thing, but it was temporary funding because they wanted to keep that string on them.
They wanted to keep them coming back. See, that's just it. If you can get your hand in somebody's pocket, you can control them. And that's what that's all about, control.
So that's power. The difference between what Trump did is he made the funding permanent, yes. Not just funding for 1 year. Good for Trump. That's somebody who really cares about helping an institution. And Trump is, I wrote an article about this, you can see it on Conservative Truth, he is probably the least racist president we've had in forever. Obama was more racist than he was. I mean, he got an award from Jesse
and
Jackson.
Continues to be so. Did you happen to see the interview yesterday? It was a split screen between President Obama and Joe Biden.
No.
I guess it was part of the convention or whatever. Suddenly, now that Joe looks like he actually has a shot in the polls of winning the election, suddenly President Obama's all lovey-dovey with him. They were sitting beside each other on a split screen, and Joe just trails off talking about we want to have, the Cold War. We want it to be a peaceful Cold War. And in the split screen, Obama's like rolling his eyes like, oh my God, Joe, you've gone totally off script here. But, he didn't say anything. And then Joe caught his train of thought and continued. This is the most stunning, shocking, bewildering thing I believe I've ever seen.
Well, Obama never even endorsed him.
Well, he is
when he was running for office.
Now that it looks like he might actually win, he's all lovey-dovey, In fact, he even said in the interview, at the end of the interview, he said, "Love you, Joe." That's how he ended it. "Love you, Joe."
Here's a guy that was by his side for 8 years. And during a hard Democratic primary, if he'd endorsed him, it would have made things so much better for him. But he wouldn't do it for whatever reason. So he has no loyalty. But the bottom line is that one of the reasons why the Democrats have fought so hard to keep states closed down is because they don't want Trump to hold rallies. Because they know that rallies are his secret weapon.
Sure.
Or not very secret weapon at all. I did hear that Joe Biden was going to have a rally and they're expecting dozens of people.
He's going to, it's going to be a virtual thing. They told all of the delegates to stay home. And it's going to be like a remote thing. If he gets elected, it'll be like a virtual president. I mean, I don't know if he's ever coming out of that basement.
No need to. Even his campaign manager was given an interview, protecting him. She did it from her bedroom. I mean, how? That's tacky to me. She's sitting in front of her bed in her bedroom, giving a national campaign address. At least go out in the living room to where it looks something like an office. I mean, come on.
For those of you that have been alive for a while, you probably remember, news shots of the convention floor. I mean, this is one of the craziest, wildest things you ever seen when you have the Republican or the Democratic National Convention and people with signs and blowing those nauseating air horns. I mean, it's like a circus. And now it's been reduced to Joe sitting in his basement and this woman sitting on her bed. And President Obama going, "Love you, Joe." That's his endorsement. "Love you, Joe."
But Trump always has tens of thousands of people. So what I said just before was actually kind of a joke. Biden announces rally, dozens expected.
No, I get it, but it's actually true.
He's afraid to do a rally because no one would show up. When Hillary would have rallies, she ordered, if you're going to be here with a camera, you have to only focus on the people in the front rows and me. You can't pan around the room because 90% of the room was empty.
So pray tell, why is Biden so far ahead in the polls?
He's not.
Well, I mean, are all the polls lying? I mean, there's got to be some right-wing poll, but yet they're reporting the same numbers.
Well, Mark Twain said, "There's lies, there's damn lies, and then there's statistics."
Okay.
To paraphrase him, there's lies, there's damn lies, and then there's polls. Just like last time, many people who planned to vote for Trump wouldn't say it, even to an anonymous pollster. Some people are afraid to admit, still to this day, that they voted for Trump. I did a crazy thing after Obama was elected. I was in the middle of the Palm Beach Mall. There were probably 1,000 people around me. And I just thought, I want to find out. So I stopped and I shouted as loud as I could. And I used to call cadence in the Marine Corps. I mean, I can really shout. I said, anybody who voted for Obama, raise your hand. And not a single person raised their hand.
Really?
You would think there would have been somebody that was proud that they voted for him.
Sure.
Not one person raised their hand. Maybe they thought I was a crazy man. I don't know. I am. But, the polls, all of them, conservative, liberal, neutral, they all said that Hillary's going to win. Nobody gave Trump a chance of winning. I think they do something in England. They call it they don't call it betting, but it's like investing in the stock market.
It's called spread betting.
Spread betting, okay, but it trades on legitimate exchanges.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It's not. It's sort of unfortunate that they chose to call it spread betting, but I guess they're like calling it what it is because that really is what you're doing. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, well, they can bet on practically anything, a horse race or an election or whatever they want to bet on. But as we got close to the election day, the spread betting in England had Trump at a 1% chance of winning. And yet he won a huge electoral victory. And frankly, if they hadn't had all the dead people voting and the suppressed votes and so on, he would have won the popular vote too. She only won a tiny fraction of the popular vote more than him. What was she, like 1 or 2 million people more than him? And so she claimed victory. So I have no doubt it's going to be the same thing this time, unless their strategy succeeds. Any one of these things they were hoping would keep him from becoming a two-term president. But three together, well, first of all, the impeachment that they knew they couldn't win. They knew there was no possibility on earth because only the House can impeach somebody and only the Senate can convict him. And the Senate was solidly Republican, and they had no evidence of anything impeachable. So why did they drag the whole nation for months through this stunt, hoping to damage Trump in advance of the election? And of course, that also kept the government's mind off of what it should have been on, was the virus. Because remember, the impeachment was finally ending about the time that the virus thing started. So any of these, the impeachment, the riots, the panic, the economic devastation that's going to take years to recover from, any of those they would hope would cause him having all 3 or 4 going for them. I talked to some Democrats, some politicians. They absolutely believe that Joe Biden's going to win. But they're putting way too much trust in polls because it's not going to happen. Just my opinion, but that's what you pay me to be here for, right?
That's right. That's why you get the big bucks, brother.
By the way, on my last radio program was on earlier today, the host recommended a website to me called blackgenocide.org. I haven't looked at it yet, so I can't recommend it.
I'm going there right now. Blackgenocide.org.
Right. But did I talk about, at the beginning, did I talk about the number of black people who are killed by black people when we first started?
I believe you did, yeah.
Okay. So 90%
more
of black people...
men die at the hands of other black men than any other
yeah,
thing, except
it's
perhaps...
90%.
Except maybe, I'm not talking about natural causes like heart disease and diabetes, but...
No, we're talking about murder, actual murder.
I'm at
90%
genocide.org.
of black men...
Go ahead.
Yeah. 90% of black men that are murdered by other black men. And 8% are murdered by white people.
Oh, look
so
at
there
this.
goes your lie, Mr.
This pastor,
so-called Reverend Al Sharpton.
This pastor is quoted at the very top of this webpage. The most dangerous place for an African American is in the womb.
That's right. Black lives matter until they are born. Or after they're born, I'm sorry. I heard someone say that. Black lives don't matter when they're in the womb, but once they're born, then black lives matter. But it's okay to kill them in the womb. Perfectly fine. And Black Lives Matter encourages that.
Now, guys, this is not some kind of racist website. This is somebody crying out to say, well, I'll let you read it. I don't have to tell you. You're one of the most
we should stop killing each other,
in radio.
Is what this pastor is saying. He's a black man himself. And I've heard many black people say this. Why are we killing each other? But 90% of black men that are murdered by black people, 8% by white people. And white people are just about as dumb. 82% of murders of white people are by other white people. So it's like we're all killing each other off, right? And 15% of white people that are murdered by black people. So that number is about twice as much as with the black people. But the fact is, there is no genocide of white people going around killing black people. There is a black genocide, as this pastor mentions, in the womb and in the cities. The black people are going around murdering each other on a daily basis. And yet Al Sharpton gets up at this George Floyd's funeral and says, every day, the same thing's happening as happened to George Floyd. Every day, white cops are chasing down black men in the streets and murdering them for no reason. And there is no basis for that, in fact. But when you say a lie often enough and loud enough and long enough, then people will start to believe the lie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because there's people right now. You could probably walk up to people on the street and go, so the fact that President Trump got impeached, do you think that was a good decision? I bet you a bunch of people would go, yeah. Or, wait, no, I want to word it so that, that's probably not a good example, because, I mean, he was impeached, but it went nowhere. So, do you understand the question I'm trying to construct?
Sure.
It's just that people, you and I, we watch the news cycle a lot, and we talk about it on radio and other places. But average, just normal people, regular citizens, it's not a life study for them. And so you're right. You hear it repeated enough times, you just start to accept it as the truth, even if it's a lie.
Because people don't understand the process. They hear that the House passed a bill for such and such, and it's a bill that has no hope of ever seeing even a vote in the Senate. But they hear it passed, they think it's now law. So Nancy Pelosi kind of tipped her hand after the impeachment. She said, well, he wasn't convicted, but he will always be impeached. So he'll be on that list of presidents who were impeached. All that means is that they were accused. And none of them have actually been impeached and removed from office. Nixon probably would have been except he resigned to keep the country from going through all the agony that the Democrats put the nation through with Trump. But all people will hear is, well, Trump was impeached, so therefore he must have been a bad president.
Yeah.
All it means is he was accused, period. But people don't understand these things, and so they believe the big lies.
Right. It's a terrible thing.
Well, one thing I can tell you, folks, I'm not I've been sort of off my normal subject of Christian financial concepts today, but all of the things that we talked about today, the riots, the China virus, the economic devastation, it used to be when things like this would happen, or where there's wars or murmurs of wars, unrest in the Middle East, what do people usually run to? They would usually run to dollars. They would sell their country's currency, whether it's euros or yen or whatever, and they would exchange it for dollars because the dollar was a safe haven. Guess where they're going today? To gold. Because the dollar is no longer a safe haven. One of the reasons people are buying gold is because the dollar is going to crash. No country has ever survived to have the amount of debt that we do. In fact, no country has ever had the amount of debt that we do today. And many countries' economies that totally collapsed had far less debt than the United States. So the dollar will crash. When? I don't know. Could be next week, could be next year.
I'm bringing up a chart of the dollar right now. So we're getting a little bounce to it. DXY. US dollar.
But the only thing that will be will keep you
it's a
safe.
bearish chart if I ever seen one. Although we could be at support. So, but then we bounce and we fail. Right about here. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But, regardless of what gold is trading for, okay, the fact that if you have physical gold is going to keep you safe when the dollar crashes. Okay, that's the bottom line. And anyone that doesn't have at least some gold today is going to bitterly regret it when the dollar crashes. I think I shared this before. I had a client that had a lot of gold, several million dollars worth, but he also had $200,000 worth of gold, or $100 bills and packets in his gun safe. And I said, why in the world do you have that? He said, well, if the economy crashes, it's always good to have some cash around. I said, yeah, but the cash would be worth nothing. And he said, well, and he started arguing with me. I said, let's put it like this. If the dollar crashes, you're not going to have to worry about a toilet paper shortage because you'll have a safe full of it. And then he got the message. I mean, the dollar will go to nothing, like it's happened in every country in the world at some time or another. And it's always been caused by debt. We have the highest debt that we've ever had, and we're going to increase it by 50% just this year. I just heard on the news today that millions of dollars worth of those stimulus checks went to prisoners in jails and state and federal prisons.
Well,
Can you imagine?
I read said that 1 million checks were sent to people who were deceased. So now I got to figure out what the truth is.
And who cashed those checks. But anyway, go to CFRNgold.com, folks. At least learn about precious metals. If you go there, go through the material, you'll know more than 95% of these guys that call themselves financial planners. And I know this because I used to train those guys in college. And the only thing they know is stocks and bonds, because I was not allowed to teach anything about gold, even though by that time I knew about it. Today I'm a professor of biblical economics in a seminary, and I can tell people the truth that gold is the only biblical money and gold is the only constitutional money. So this experiment we've been on for the last 80 plus years of Federal Reserve money backed by zero is doomed to failure. It's always failed. Every paper currency in the world has always failed. None have survived. And to be arrogant enough to think that we would be the first country that would buck that trend, I think is foolish. So either go to CFRNgold.com, or if you want to call me, it's 561-753-5998. 561-753-5998. And make sure that you say that Dwayne sent you our way. Okay?
All
God
right,
bless you,
Dr. Tom.
everybody.
God bless you, man. Thanks so much. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, sir.
All right. Take care. Okay. All right, guys. We did the recap. So let's go to the good word for the day. Yesterday, we talked about reading the Bible. Why that might be a good idea. Let's continue. Hebrews 5:11. Concerning him, we have much to say, and it is hard to explain since you have become dull of hearing. Paul writes in Hebrews 5:11, you have become dull of hearing. By this time, you ought to be teachers. You have need again for someone to teach you the elementary principles. You have come to need milk and not solid food. For everyone who partakes only of milk is an infant, but solid food is for the mature, who because of practice have their senses trained to discern good and evil. Hebrews 5:11. Now the key word in this passage is time. The people to whom these words were written had a learning disability. Paul said, you have become dull of hearing, meaning that you are slow to learn. By this time, you ought to be entering university, but you've got to go back to primary school and learn your alphabet all over again. By this time, you should be communicating the truth as teachers of the word, but you still need somebody to communicate the truth to you. I resemble that remark. I have students who should be teaching other people that, you only buy above the BBC. You only sell below the BBC. But 5 sessions later, I'm still dealing with that basic principle. Not trying to shame anybody. I'm sure this is true in your life. You've tried to show something, teach something. Maybe it's with your children. How many times have you told your children, hey, you should be doing this, and yet they do that, right? Okay. It's a dilemma, right? It's life. Doesn't make anybody bad. Makes us all human. Very human. Now, also note the phrase in the scripture, solid food is for the mature. Okay, who are the mature? You're mature if you've trained yourself through constant use of Scripture. In other words, whenever you offer an argument or try to explain something, you can back it up with actual Scripture. The mark of spiritual maturity isn't how much you learn, it's how much you put into practice. In the spiritual realm, the opposite of ignorance isn't knowledge, it's obedience. That's worth repeating. In the spiritual realm, the opposite of ignorance isn't knowledge, it's obedience. Obeying the scripture is the key to spiritual maturity. In the long term, you retain about 10% of what you hear. You retain about 50% of what you see. But you retain 90% of what you do. And what you repeatedly do defines who you are. So, in James 1:22 it says, don't just listen to God's word. You've heard the scripture, don't just be hearers of the word, but be doers of the word. Okay? The New Living Translation says, don't just listen to God's word, actually do what it says. Don't just talk the talk, walk the walk. Otherwise, you're only fooling yourselves. But if you do what it says, God will bless you for your obedience. And that's our good word for the day. Thanks so much for tuning in. Tonight is workshop night every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. If you've been on the trial and you've made a decision, I want to hang out with the people who do this. Those are my kind of people. Then get a hold of Valerie at 949-42-EMINI. Send her an email, support@cfrn.net. Ask for a price sheet, a spec sheet. She'll send that to you. It explains everything that comes with a CFRN passport. It's a one-time purchase. There's no monthly recurring fees. There's nothing else to buy ever. One money. That's it. Done. Lifetime membership. That's every class, every workshop, every alert, concierge, and logic. We have someone on the trial last night. He shared a screenshot from his phone. One of the alerts last night, I'm sure he was trading in SIM, but it showed that he had just profited $2,500. Now again, I'm sure it was SIM. I don't know what he was trading or how many contracts, but it should be in SIM because he's on the trial. But it showed a positive $2,500 balance. I mean, that's half of what a passport costs. So you've spent a lot of money in the past. You've bought a lot of stuff. But if you've been on the trial this past week and you paid attention, you've never in your life, not once, seen what you've seen in the past week. Delivered in a completely 100% transparent manner. I say that with all my heart because I know it's true. I live in the same world you do. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading Emini Futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.